Good morning, everyone. We are currently admitting our guest, and we'll go ahead and get started in just a minute or two. Good morning. Let's go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm a little surprised that we had so many people. I thought many people would be taking those last minute vacations prior to the start of the school year. But the team and I are thrilled that you are choosing to spend some time with us this morning. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So this morning, our agenda will consist of some opening remarks. We'll share some metrics with you. We'll give you some updates from Ms. Paula Bell and background credentialing. We'll then move to some updates around our certification portal. We'll have some certification reminders and then share some dates of importance as well as some support and resources. As always, I like to take the opportunity to brag on Miss Norman and her amazing team. Would love to highlight the great work that our certification specialist team, as well as our background credentialing team members are doing. You can see that for the month of June, we processed nearly 2,600 applications. 91% of those applications were processed within our 15 business day goal, and the average processing time was less than 10 business days. The team resolved nearly 1,300 questions, and those questions were answered within one business day. The team definitely is continuing to push limits, and their SMART goal for the month of July is to process 3,000 applications between July 1 and the end of July. And we are making great progress towards that. We have just about 1,300 to go to achieve that goal. So kudos to all of our specialists and credentialing team for the amazing work that they continue to do, serving each and every one of you. At this time, I'll go ahead and turn the call over to Ms. Paula Bell, who's our Director of Background Credentialing.
Thank you, Dr. Geoffrion. Good morning, colleagues. I hope this morning finds you well and that the summer vacations that you all are able to enjoy some time off. So I'll get started here with the Clear Credential and fingerprinting resources. Some of this information we've shared with you in the past, but I did want to give you an update on our numbers. Between January 1st and July 11th, we have granted 11,314 Clear credentials. So my staff has retrieved those rap sheets, the CBCs, as a result of the fingerprinting, and those were reviewed, and those folks were cleared with no disqualifying convictions, therefore clearing them for certification processing. Also on this slide, I've shared a few links here that serve as resources. There's that document that explains the rationale why a CBC is required for certification, aside from the fact that it's law. A document that explains what the Clear credential means. It's not a certificate, but rather an indicator that one has been cleared for certification and that they can then move forward to fulfill the educational requirements. The educator fingerprinting packet, you all are probably very familiar with it now. It has that link to schedule fingerprinting with our service code. So share that with those who are wishing for the fingerprints to be sent to our office. And finally, as a reference there, we have a document outlining the reasons why a certificate may be denied, suspended, or revoked, and the process for reinstatement where it is allowable in the law. If you're not seeing the clear credential for an individual when you're verifying the records on teachlouisiana.net, please direct that educator to that fingerprinting packet. And they can also check the status themselves of the fingerprinting by going to the Identigo website. I have the URL spelled out here. Basically, it's status check, and they can check it themselves. Applicants should also check their email address that was used to schedule the fingerprinting. Many times the fingerprints were rejected and the applicant was notified that they need to reschedule at no additional cost, but they missed that notification because they didn't know it was going to come via email. So just have them check it. If you find that 3 weeks has passed since the person's fingerprinted and they were fingerprinted under our service code, you could reach out to us. If you don't see that clear credential, you would just email educatorclearance@la.gov with any details, including maybe the receipt for the fingerprinting, so that we can investigate and see why there would be a hang up or a snag in that CBC. So I'm going to present to you now some new information on Act 409. So this was signed into law. It was Senate Bill 41, and it's now referred to as Act 409, and it strengthens child welfare and safety standards in education. While much of the legislation actually applies to early learning centers, several key changes impact all school systems, including the never evers. That changes the revised statute 15587.1C. Those are our never evers. So there's a few additional things that have been added there, and we'll delve into what those are in the upcoming slides. Also, RS 17.8.7, that's that Bessie records review. That law was updated, as well as revised statute 1715. There's some hiring and dismissal practices for employers that were updated in that legislation. So on the next slide, we can dig deeper into the 15587.1C changes. So the list was updated to add offenses related to human trafficking and to add the offense related to sexual battery of persons with infirmities. So if anyone is convicted of those crimes listed here, those were added. Those are never evers. A few items were removed from the law, but those were due in part to them having been repealed in years past. It was kind of a cleanup of sorts. So the next slide, the update to 17.8.7, Section B of this law outlines the authority of Bessie to consider certification sanction appeals. So those are best known as records reviews. Someone's been denied certification or revoked certification. The change to the law aligns with with Bessie's current practice outlined in Bulletin 746, Chapter 19, whereby persons with a 15587.1C cannot be considered for a records review. They cannot be reinstated. They cannot have that denial lifted. So the law basically strengthens what we already had in place for that process and policy. The law was updated to read, the board may, after successful appeal, issue an educator credential or other teaching authorization to a person who has been convicted of or has pled nolo contendere to a felony offense, and they struck through the word or, and they added except for an offense listed in 15587.1C. The law still restricts records reviews from occurring until 5 years after the disqualifying conviction or event. So hopefully you're not having to deal with too many of those, but this was updated in the law. Also, on the next slide, we'll talk about the update to hiring. This is applicable, and it is new. This law directs school systems in hiring and dismissal practices. 1715 has been in existence, but this updated it. In addition to the CBC, criminal background check, the employer is directed to check the Department of Children and Family Services, DCFS, their state central registry. So persons with prohibited convictions, those 15587.1Cs, or whose name is recorded on the DCFS Central Registry as a person who has been substantiated, who has a substantiated complaint of child abuse or neglect on or after August 1st, 2018, cannot be hired by the local school board or a non-public school system. Remember that using the clear credential for the criminal background check while hiring is allowable in state law. So if they're fingerprinted for certification, state law allows you to rely on that for your hiring practices. But our guidance has been that while we've been implementing this new law, the CBC for certification law, school systems should decide if they want to rely on that certification, specifically the clear credential or not. So that would be a school system decision that should be carefully considered with your legal counsel. If you need additional guidance on this, I do have some resources I can share with you. You could just email me at educatorclearance@la.gov, and I will share again those resources that would help you consider such things as convictions versus arrests. And then finally, Act 409, it speaks to dismissal. So the department hasn't been involved with hiring practices, but we are just simply sharing this information with you because it is a law that is that changed the Louisiana Revised Statute 1715. So the law directs school systems to dismiss any employee who or whose name is recorded on the DCFS Central Registry as a person who has a substantiated complaint of child abuse. So you shouldn't hire them. And if you see it there on or after August 1st, 2025, you shouldn't hire them according to this law. Other reasons why you should dismiss an employee according to this law is if they submitted fraudulent documentation to Bessie or us as part of their certification application. If they facilitated cheating on any state assessment as determined by Bessie, or if they've been convicted of a prohibited conviction, that's the 15587.1C, never evers. The only change to the law was that addition of the underlined portion on this slide that requires dismissal of person on the DCFS Central Registry. Another piece of this legislation requires employees to report when and if their name is recorded in that central registry to both the employer and us within 2 business days. If persons fail to report a conviction or their name being recorded in that central registry, they could individually be fined up to $1,000 and or imprisoned for up to a year. The law also includes civil penalties for that may be imposed on school systems who knowingly employ people with prohibited convictions or have been found substantiated on that central registry. If you have any additional questions about this, or if you wish to report a situation as directed in the state law and policy, contact us by emailing educatorclearance@la.gov, and we'll be able to assist you with that. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague. I believe Lana Hutchinson is going to take a walkthrough on the new online system LEC.
Thank you, Paula, and thank you all for joining us here today. We are providing some updates on the new educator certification portal. We are still tentative on our implementation plan, but we have completed our alpha testing and our beta testing cycles. We are still anticipating launching around July 28th, either on the 28th or sometime during that week. We do not currently anticipate any delays to that launch date. We will be using this week between now and July 28th to work with the technical team, ensure that everything is ready to go live. But the testing, both alpha and beta cycles, did go really, really well. And we're excited to get it launched and make it available. We are planning training sessions. I already have time blocks held on my calendar. We're just waiting for that official launch date before we announce those training sessions. They will start presumably this week, assuming we confirm launch in the early part of next week, as well as next week during the first couple weeks of the live cycle once we get everything live. The training sessions are going to be announced on teachlouisiana.net and Teach LA Live. And you'll be able to access the days and times, look at your calendar, figure out which session works for you. We'll only be offering sessions for authorized users. So for our HR folks, we'll offer separate sessions for public and non-public. So the system will work a little differently depending on which environment you're in and whether you're using other state systems. And then preparation providers will also have personalized sessions for the way that preparation providers will interact with the system. We are finding that some of the feedback from our testers leads us to believe that even without attending any specific training or receiving any specific training, that some folks, particularly those that are fairly comfortable with technology in general, are just able to figure it out. It's a pretty user-friendly system, we think, and the certification is complex, so there certainly is a lot involved in it, but most folks in our test cycle were able to kind of find their way around even without attending a very specific training. So we're really encouraged by that. And if the sessions that we offer don't fit into your schedule, we do also intend to record one of the sessions for each particular authorized user group so that those can be posted as well. So you can watch the training sessions at your leisure. We will also be having user guides and other reference documents that will be available when we do go live. We do anticipate still having about a 2-week window where we will allow applications in the PDF format to still be submitted through the current system, Teach LA Live, at which time we will have to take Teach LA Live offline and move everyone fully into the new system. So we continue to encourage you to consider how many PDF applications you might have kind of in your own queue on your desk waiting to be submitted, and go ahead and get those uploaded so that we can get them processed without having to start over in the new system. In the new system, the application forms themselves are web-based forms, so those PDFs will just no longer be accepted once we turn off the Teach LA Live access.
I have a question.
Yes.
This is Tracy.
Okay.
I thought we were going to have a 30-day. When this was first introduced, I have a note that says you have a 30-day. Yeah, we're going to leave it open for both ways. And now it's 2 weeks.
Yeah, we've been communicating for at least the past 3 calls that it will be a 2-week window. Yes.
I didn't. This is the first time I hear 2 weeks. I heard 30 days. I'm going to pull my notes.
But we can help you with any of those applications if you're unsure if they made it through or not. We'll be able to help you. We're going to transition this with you.
It's the one. It's not that, Miss Paula. It's the ones that are dragging their feet, getting their stuff, and they're starting it on the paper, and then all of a sudden I have to turn them back and say, now start all over and go do it this other way. That's what I'm worried about. I was anticipating 30 days, and that's what I remember y'all saying, but I will check my notes.
And maybe you can use it as a way to motivate them, that they can either get those things over to you pronto, or they'll get to use the new system, which they may find to be more useful, more user-friendly, and easier to navigate. They may say, hey, this is way better. I'm glad I dragged my feet on that PDF because now I get to use the new all modern system.
Oh, I totally think the new modern system will be better for me. That's for sure.
I think yes.
I'm
I think
not
all our
disagreeing.
stakeholders will find it to be better. Yes.
I think it will be better. Wait, I had another question though, and it left my head. I'll get back on when I get it back in my head. Sorry.
And some other updates, just reminders, these were all included in our previous calls, but the additional updates that will change when LET goes live with the CTTIE application to kind of bring that in line with all of our other applications. The CTTIE application will now also require an additional $25 processing fee if requesting more than one area, just like we do with add-ons with the initial recommendation when they request a second area. It just kind of aligning that with our processes for other application types. Request for course approval. We will, for the $50 initial processing fee, we'll review up to 4 courses for pre-approval. And then an additional processing fee would be required to have more than 4 courses reviewed. The vast majority of course approvals we receive are just looking for 1 or 2 courses to make sure that they'll fulfill that last missing requirement. So we don't expect this will impact a lot of people, but every now and then somebody needs us to review and improve like an entire program from an out-of-state university with lots and lots of courses included. And so those will have a slight change in the processing fee when we're reviewing a bunch of courses. One of the major changes procedurally in the new system is that everything needs to be initiated by the educator. We're really excited about this and the possibilities of having the educators become more involved in the application system. We know for some school systems, they've maybe historically done a little of the work for the educator, but they will need to log in and start that as their acknowledgement that this is a request that they're wanting to make for certification. And then they will send those requests to their preparation providers, so they're employing school systems to sign off on those requests. And all that is handled automatically routed through the system. That does include follow-up submissions where corrections need to be made. HR and preparation providers do have the option to ping the educator and say, hey, this is the application you need to complete. I need you to go start this application. But the educator will need to actually log in, complete their part, and take care of that and get it over to you to do the HR or preparation provider parts. We are also adding an automated CBC clear credential verification. So an educator will not even be able to start an application until they have that clear credential or we have record of a CBC on file that's less than 5 years old. So you as an HR will be able to send them the request, but if they try to open that application to begin it and they don't have their clear credential, the only thing they will see is a application to get their fingerprints done. It'll provide the same information as the PDF document that we currently have live with what is our service code and the steps to connect to Identigo. And they will submit that application, which is just a professional conduct form, and there's no fee. And then they'll go get their background check. And as soon as they are cleared with the clear credential, then they'll be able to go in and start the application. So that will also take some of the work off of all of our partners that are authorized users. You wouldn't necessarily need to go check that yourself. You know, when they try to start the application, if they don't have it, the system will tell them. So access requirements. I'm seeing in the chat a question about what sorts of access will teachers need, and that's what we're going to cover right here. LEC, the Louisiana Educator Certification Portal, will be integrated into the Louisiana Educator Portal that is already live. So when we make the certification applications portions live, they're just going to be added to that portal that already exists. If you're already, for our public school partners, if you're already using the Louisiana Educator Portal to access evaluation information, those educators that are already logging in and using it for entering their evaluation data, they don't need to do anything else. It'll just appear when we go live, and they'll be able to access the applications right there through that exact same portal. If they are not already using the Louisiana Educator Portal, so for our non-public friends, for the preparation providers who are maybe working on people when it's their very first certificate pre-service, then those educators only need a MILA account. And they can easily just visit MILA. You provide like 4 points of information, name, so email address, social, very little information, and then they'll be able to access the applications as well. School system personnel who are already using the Louisiana Educator Portal for evaluations will only need to request the specific permissions for your role. I did see a question in the chat about somebody who serves as both a preparation provider for a district-based prep program as well as the HR person, you'll be able to request both HR and preparation provider permissions. And we'll provide step-by-step how to request those permissions when we're ready to go live. That'll be part of the training sessions, as well as there will be written documentation. But if you've been working in any of the state systems that use EdLink security and you've requested permissions for evaluations or anything else, it's the same process. You'll just go through and say, I'm HR, get that account approved, that permission approved, and you'll have access to sign as the HR on the applications for certification. For our non-public personnel who do not traditionally use those state systems and our preparation providers as well, you're going to need a few things to get authorized access to sign as the preparation provider or the HR office. You're going to need an eScholar staff ID. Some of you will have one already for other state systems that you may have worked in, but some of you will not have one. You'll need a MILA account. Many of you are already going to have one of those, from whether it's from using our Help Center portal, having access to office hours, or any other reasons with working in different state systems. And then you will also need to request the permissions once we go live. Instructions will be provided for requesting those authorized positions, permissions, when we go live. But the staff ID is something that you can request ahead of time. We can't share the information on requesting permissions because the permissions don't exist in the live system yet. If you were to try to go to EdLink Security and request them, the choices wouldn't be there yet until we go live. MILA accounts can be created at any time. So if you're trying to kind of get ahead of the things you'll need to request, and if you don't have a MILA account, you can go ahead and request one of those. And the eScholar staff ID as well. If you're non-public or preparation provider and you don't have a staff ID yet, you can also request that.
Lana,
yes.
I'm sorry. Where exactly do I go to request I have a MILA account.
Mm-hmm.
Where
That's
do I
my
go?
next slide, Tracy.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Shutting up.
So to request an eScholar staff ID, HR or preparation provider authorization, it requires that information. You're going to sign into the EdLink's op portal, and a link is provided here. The slide deck has been dropped into the chat a few times and will be again, I'm sure, multiple times before the end of the call. So you'll visit the EdLink's op portal, and it's a very simple, just fill out a little form. And so non-public personnel will select the option for I am a PK-12 non-public school employee, and preparation providers will select I am working for an external partner. And when you choose that option, it'll give you two choices, and you would choose teacher prep provider. Then it asks for your name, your contact information, a little bit of personal identifiers, and then you hit save and submit. And then you should be notified within a pretty short period of time, a day or two, when your staff ID has been created. You don't need to really actually do anything with it. They'll link it to your MILA account. And then when you register with, we go live with the LEC portal, it'll be connected to your MILA account, which will connect to your LEC account, and you'll be ready to go. But you can, if you want to get ahead of it, go ahead and request that staff ID. I do, and I may be being a little overly cautious, but I have concerns about everybody trying to do this on day one when we go live and kind of overwhelming the people that create these staff IDs. So I encourage you, if you have the time, and to just go ahead and get that in so that we can have a smooth transition when we go live. Now,
Lana, before we do the LEC demonstration, I do believe that we have the most questions answered in the chat. Paula, I do see a question from Julie Stevenson that I'm going to assume is regarding the DCFS check, and that how will that work for PL and level 1 applications that do not come through a school system employer?
Once they are hired, according to the law, it's hiring and dismissal. That's the wording of the law. And so my understanding is when you are hiring them. So if they're not your employee, you haven't hired them, is my interpretation of that. But I would have you, I would encourage you to take the law. I've linked it there on the slide, and meet with your legal counsel to just ensure that you all have covered that.
All right, thank you. And then the last one, Lena, this looks like it's specific to the LEC. If we are a public HR but do not currently have LEP or LEP account, do we have the steps on what we need to request to create that?
So it like my understanding is, as if you are a public school employee, you very likely already have the eScholar ID, that staff ID, that's pretty standard for all public, traditional public and public charters. If not, you would essentially need to follow the same steps as the non-publics or the preparation providers, in that you would need to request an eScholar staff ID. Excuse me, staff ID. You'll need a MILA account. And then when we officially go live, you would request the permissions within EdLink security for your role.
All right, thanks, Lana. So the next slide, the next couple of slides, well, actually, they're not even slides. Since this was a pretty light meeting as far as since we didn't have a ton of certification updates, and since this is the last monthly call before LEC launches, which officially will be 1 week from today, we decided that we would use this platform to have Lana do just a very high level demonstration to those of you on the call that may not have been part of the alpha or beta testing, just to really show how great of a platform it is and how super user friendly and how intuitive it is. So I'll turn it back over to Lana to go through that demonstration.
So I'm going to share my screen. We'll do actual live sharing here. Now, this is, of course, still our staging testing environment. This is not the actual live system because the system is not live. The first thing, I am currently pretending to be one of our kind of test educators. And I wanted to just kind of show you that checking for the CBC or the clear credential. This person does not have a CBC or a clear credential in our records. And so when she goes to start a new certification application, the only thing that she has access to in the list of applications is the fingerprint clearance required before proceeding. So if your educators, if you tell them, I need you to submit an OFAT application, and they do not have that clear credential or CBC, then the only application they'll see when they try to do that is this one. And then they would just hit the little plus sign, say okay, and it'll give them the instructions to do their fingerprinting. And then they will fill out the all online professional conduct form, submit that, and then go get their fingerprints. Once they do that, then when they go to start a new certification application, they'll see all of them. So I have given myself a clear credential in the background so that I can demonstrate and test all these applications. And so the list of applications is significantly different than what you're used to. Not so much for preparation providers. It's somewhat different even there. But our goal with the system was not to just mimic what we already had. Our goal was to make it better. So pros and cons, there are more applications since we've broken out certain types of requests instead of consolidating everything into one application where there's lots of different things you can do. For instance, the renewal hire application is now just for renewing or renewal or hire of the for the level 1, 2, 3. There's a separate application for the type A and B. There's a separate application for status changes. So we're hoping that makes it a little easier for people to find the application that they need. This is just like any other web browser. So if I were looking at this and I wanted to apply for math for professionals, I could just use a simple web find like you can use on any other web pages and say math for, and it will search the list and find the one that is appropriate for that request. So it is a pretty long list. But the application forms themselves are all right there. They will route automatically to the employing school system or preparation provider, and you'll be able to sign your portions, do your experience verifications, that sort of thing. I am going to now switch to another demo account as an HR person. So I'm going to look first at this demonstration from the perspective of HR personnel, which is, I know, probably the majority of folks on the call. What the preparation providers see is similar to what HR see. And if we have enough time during this demonstration, I'll also show the preparation provider features. But the HR personnel, when they log in, up in the upper right-hand corner, once you've been given permissions, you'll have either public certification or non-public certification, depending on your position. But the features that are available under each are very much the same. If you select public certification, for instance, that's going to list for you all the applications that have been sent to your HR office for review and approval. And so I staged some fake applications here so you could kind of see what that will look like. And so there are several here that need to be completed, have their HR sections completed. Now, the active applications list will actually show you all applications where your school system has been indicated as the employing school system. The educator chooses who to send the application to when they complete their parts. So these are all the applications where the applicant has chosen, in this case, East Baton Rouge as their employing school system to route it for verification. You do, as an employing school system, have this option over on the right side for action required. And if you change that to true, that list will change a little bit. So you see when I'm not set, these first two applications, when it's just blank and it's showing everything, these first two applications for Aaron Angel and Jarwin Jahoy are in that list. But when I switch that to true, that list gets a little shorter. Active applications will help show you an application from the point that the educator indicates to send it to you for verification until it has been assigned to one of us in the certification office to be processed. So you will have it in your application, in your active applications, during the time when it's waiting for you to complete your HR section, and it will stay there till the educator pays and submits it through the pending queue, through the waiting in unassigned, until it has been assigned to a certification specialist. Once it's assigned to a certification specialist, it will move to submitted applications. When you're looking at your active applications, you've got a few tools that you can use to figure out which ones you still actively need to do anything on. The first being using the action required filter, set that to action required as true. And that means these are the applications where there's still something the HR office needs to complete and sign before that application can move forward. You also can look at each individual application just by clicking on the little blue arrow. So this one, for instance, you see it says application submitted. And if I click on it, it says this application is complete and currently in the queue for the certification office. If I click on this one, then I can see each one of these different forms are forms within the application. And this little lock means that form has already been completed and signed. So this application has been completed by all parties, and the one thing that hasn't been done is the checkout. So this one is waiting for the applicant to return to the application, pay their processing fee, and submit that over to our office. This next one, we can see that the applicant has completed their part through the first section review, which is the applicant section review. But this one's still waiting for in-state experience verification. Then this would be the HR section review, and then it can be checked out. The applicant cannot check out until everybody involved in the application has signed the application. And we are hopeful that this will help prevent some confusion that we've seen over the years where people pay for an application just to find out they don't really need to do it or can't get necessary signatures. And then it also works, the checkout works like kind of like an Amazon cart. It'll tell them how much is owed, and that's all they can pay. So people cannot mistakenly pay $500 or pay only $50 when $75 is due. It'll show them exactly how much, and until that amount has been paid, the application cannot be submitted. But you'll be able to watch your applications all the way through the process and be able to see exactly what still needs to be done, who's done what. with our applications that involve both HR and preparation providers. Everybody involved in the application can see all the forms, all the other things that everybody else has completed or not completed. So you'll know this PL application for my candidate is waiting for the program provider to sign off on it. Instead of having to ask us, has the provider submitted this application yet? And you'll be able to really be on top of those applications as much as you'd like. If you click on the arrow over the little summary of the application, you can go into the actual application. Now, this one has just an applicant section and an HR section. And you can see all the forms that the applicant completed. And you can click through to see all the answers they provided, all the documents that they uploaded, and their signature statement. And then in the HR section, you can locate the forms you need to complete and have those, get those completed and signed by the employing school system. We do have a feature with the teaching experience to import experience from state systems. So our public school systems have been reporting in PEP, EdLink 360, other state systems, employment records for many, many years. And so we've tied this to other state systems to be able to import that information for you. For school systems like our non-publics that don't historically report in those systems, this tool may be less useful and would only be useful if you're working with somebody who's come over from the public system recently. But I do, for everybody, encourage using this with a little bit of caution. The information reported in state systems hasn't always been accurate or clean data. Sometimes we see people that have 20 entries for the same school year, or we see people where we have assigned in-state experience verification saying they served in that school, but they're not in the state systems at all. For those of you who work in systems who have always really reported this information cleanly and updated it when someone leaves and added new people as soon as they start, then you may find this really helpful. Other systems where the data entry has maybe been a little less accurate, then you may find that when you import the information, you get a whole lot of stuff that you don't really want. But all you have to do if you want to use what's already in the state systems, you just click that button and it'll pull it all in. Now, here's an example. This particular, I kind of wanted to show that this particular applicant has multiple records for some of these years. And it's kind of, a little bit, there'd be a little bit of cleanup that would need to happen for this to be proper verification of experience. When you import, if you scroll over to the right here, you have the option to edit each record. The state systems don't include things like job title, subject, grade. We can pull in that other information that's in the reporting, but we would still need on each entry to click that edit and add that additional information that we need for processing certification requests. If you have one like this one here, where there's multiple entries there from 2020 to 2024, but then lots of duplications below it, then you also have the option to kind of clean it up just by clicking the X next to any duplicate records and get it out. So it can be really, really useful, especially if working in systems that have kind of kept up with this and kept that data clean. You might find when you import that you get way more than you bargained for. So just use that with a little grain of salt. You also do have the option to just add new record here and just manually put those in without importing the data. If the button to import records is not showing on the experience, that means they don't have any records or they've already been imported. Now, the applicant has the opportunity on the experience verification. When they are completing their section, they can go to the HR section, go to the in-state experience verification form and add records themselves. And because when we did our surveys about, do you want them to be able to put information here? Do you want to only do that yourself? We got really mixed answers, and it wasn't a real strong one way or another. So they can go add records here. And then we'll leave it up to each of you to decide how you prefer to work and to communicate that to your educators. If you want the educators to fill out the experience verification form and you only review and sign what they entered, add, change as needed, then communicate that with your educators when we go live. Let them know that you won't sign the in-state experience verification form if they haven't put that information there. Or let them know that if they do put some, you'll consider it, but you will add other records based on what you're able to verify. Or let them know not to touch it. Whatever it is, however you like to work, you can communicate that to your educators, and the system would allow any of those options to happen. An educator can enter records here, but they cannot sign it and lock it and make that truly verified information. So they can put those entries, but then you can see how here, while I'm acting as an educator, that form can't be completed. If I were, now I'm HR, once I've filled all this information in, then only a person that's got HR access can actually sign it as the representatives of the school system, verifying that that experience is accurate. So if we jump back to the active applications list, there are a few other tools that you can use. On the top of each column, you have these little filters, and they'll let you filter by what the information that's included in the column. So if I'm in a larger school system, or we're at kind of peak activity time period and your list of active applications is really long, but somebody has asked you about a particular application. So I could click here and say, the name contains Renee, and just go straight to that one application for that person. You can also filter by site code. This one off. So if you work the way that you work in your office, if you have multiple people and maybe you've divided the work up by particular schools, so each person has certain schools that they work with, you can use those site codes. And I could say the site code is equal to 017008 or 017125. And then just get this applications that are for those particular sites. So there are different ways that you can kind of play around with these different tools to figure out how to navigate and to split work when you have multiple people present as part of the system. But primarily, you'll go through, you'll sign your portions. The vast majority of applications for HR folks, it's verifying experience, employment, their current role. There are a couple application types where there's maybe an additional form, but for the most part, you just go in and do the verification. And when you sign it, the applicant will get a notification that the application is ready to check out. And then they will receive a separate notification every single day until they go and check it out. We know that some folks maybe don't check their email every day, maybe don't stay on top of these requests. They kind of set it and forget it. They send it to you and then don't think about it again. So we're hopeful with the daily reminders to go check out that they will come back to the application and pay the processing fee, so it will be on its way. But you'll be able to see in your active applications, that application is still waiting to check out. And if you want to ping them too, you can also reach out to them and say, hey, I did my part last week, but you haven't checked out yet. If you want this to be processed, you need to go to the checkout. Our authorized users will also receive notifications when you have things that are waiting for you. We're not going to spam you and send you a message every single time somebody sends something your way, but you will get a daily report that is just a simple reminder. In this case, East Baton Rouge has 12 applications waiting for HR signature. Or preparation providers will get similar ones that your program has applications waiting for you to complete the provider portions. So you will get a daily notification about that. Then when we process the application and we send the results, those results will go to everybody that signed the application. So that if it's a PL application, the preparation provider will get the notification the certificate was issued. The HR office that signed off on it will get verification. And then the applicant themselves will also get verification. In your submitted application section, you can also go check. If it's been submitted to us and processed, this list over time will grow to be like your history. Every application that your school system has signed ever through LEC. And so you will be able to, again, filter by name if you'd like, locate an application, see where it says case processed here. And then you can click on it and it will show what the result was. If there was a letter written, the letter would show right here. And you can even click one more and see the application itself. And under messaging, I didn't pick a good one. There, and under messaging, you'll be able to pull the results. And if we had sent attachments, they'll be right there where it says click here to show hide attachments. The message that we sent will be right there. So it'll all be there at your fingertips. It'll also be at the fingertips of the educator. They will always have their own list of applications that they submitted, and they can do the same thing. They can go to the application, go to messaging, and see the response that we sent. So it should keep everybody in the loop much more efficiently than our current system, where we're really only able to send direct communication back to whoever actually uploaded the PDF document. So now this overview was not meant to be any sort of formal training. We just wanted to kind of introduce some of the features, show you a little bit about the parts that we're excited about and the way that those will work. I do see there's a ton of questions in the chat, so I'm going to kind of pause there and take a look and see if there's anything while I still have the demo up that is important to share with everyone.
Yeah, Lana, Paul and I tried to do our best to navigate the chat and answer as many as we could. There were a few. One of them was about the payment. So I do know that some school systems and or prep providers do pay for their candidates, and so we did have an individual asking, will they still be able to do that?
That they will still be able to make the payment on their behalf.
Make the payment on behalf.
Yes.
That's correct.
Yes, you will still be able to make the payment on behalf. So once everything has been signed, anybody who's part of the application that's been routed the application can go to checkout and make the payment. The payment will happen right there on the application. No, active. This was the one to check out, right? Yes. So anybody can go to checkout. And then right here is where the payment information will be put in. So if you are paying for that on behalf, whether it's the school system or the preparation provider, then you would just go here, put in the payer information. I can't demo this because we don't want to be making any real payments. And although we've linked it for testing, we can't demo it in the staging environment. But so they could just come in here and the school system can do it, the provider can do it, or the applicant can do it once everything has been signed. And you see right there, it tells them what the total fee due is. And then you can see here the prepaid checkout form. I did see as I was scanning through somebody asking about using old receipts. That's the prepaid checkout form. I will caution you, the prepaid checkout thing it's a little clunky. It's because anyway, technical reasons, it's clunky. And we're hopeful that people won't be using old receipts in volume for very long. We understand that right at first, we're going to have a lot of people that already made a payment in the old system that now need to use it in the new system. And there is a mechanism for that. Using the receipt, though, the prepaid receipt, that's something the educator does have to be involved in. So if a provider or a school system has their receipt, you can add the prepaid checkout form and you can add the receipt to documents that are uploaded, but the applicant will need to come back in and confirm that the payment receipt, that they're using that prepaid receipt before it can be fully checked out.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and pause on answering questions just to kind of since we only have a few more minutes and we just want to be cognizant of everyone's time. So we will go ahead and finish with the presentation. And so this is actually pretty much all we more or less have left. We do have our important dates, of course, with this week, we have the new teacher experience summer kickoff. Of course, we have a week from today, the big go live date that we have been pumping for the last several months. As we have been communicating over the course of the last, I think, 3 or 4 monthly calls. Again, there will be a 2-week time period. So beginning next Monday, there is that 2-week or that 14-day time period where if you have any pending PDFs and you want to go ahead and submit in Teach LA Live, go ahead and make sure you clear off your desk, because that 2 weeks from that Monday, the system, as Lana mentioned, will go ahead and turn off, and there will be no ability to submit in that. You will have to work with that teacher candidate to now go through LEC. We have the preparation provider monthly call next Wednesday, system leader monthly call August 1st. Again, as it's mentioned on there, August 11th, kind of circle that calendar, that date in your calendars, because that is the last official day to submit any and all applications to Teach LA Live. I do know there was a question in the chat about, are we going to still process those? Yes, any application that is submitted between now and August 11th, if it is submitted completely and appropriately to that online portal, to our Teach LA Live online portal, it will still get processed in the order received. We're still trying to figure out internally how we're going to navigate and balance both systems, but we're going to do our best to kind of be fair to both people and kind of still stick with our first in, first out. And then of course, we have in August 19th through 20th is the BESI meetings. These are, of course, our supports and resources, the same links that we have every single week, every single month, the school system calendar, Bulletin 746, our Teach LA Live portal, again, which is only going to be up for a couple more weeks. And then, of course, teachlouisiana.net. A few reminders, here's our monthly calls through the next, or for the next couple of months through December. And that is actually all we have. And so we can stick around for about 2 or 3 minutes to try to clean up any questions that we have in the chat, and or if you want to come off of a mute. But if not, feel free to go ahead and enjoy the rest of your day. We do know that this is the last call before school starts. So if we don't get an opportunity to speak with you or see you before then, we do wish you the best before school officially starts off for you and your district.
Training dates, I don't think those have been determined yet. We're going to advertise those on teachlouisiana.net and on the Teach LA Live portal. We'll be advertising those, and we'll offer multiple sessions for that. Lana, have you, I don't think we've firmed up any dates yet, correct?
Yes, that's correct. I'm hopeful that on my call here in just 1 minute with the tech team that
Developers. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it will be able to confirm an official go live date, and then I'll be able to put together a calendar of training. So just want to make
And we will record those and make them available in system leader, newsletters, etc. So if you're not able to attend one of the trainings, we will have some recorded versions as well.
I have a question. As a prep provider, I'm supposed to go and make an account with eScholar Staff ID.
Yes, you will need an eScholar staff ID in order to have authorized access as a preparation provider.
Okay, and I can do that from the slide. I can just click on there and go
Yes.
make one. Okay, just want to make sure. All right, thanks.
I have a quick question about the ones that do not require HR to sign off. Will we be notified if an employee starts, the mentor certification? Will that still show up on our dashboard even if a signature is not required?
Probably not. I don't want to say definitive. I'm trying to remember if there is an option on that application.
Okay.
So a lot of applications that are submitted by the educator directly do have an option to route the application to their HR office for additional review and verification. But it's an applicant choice because policy allows that application to be submitted to us directly without HR verification. So we can't restrict those to only go to HR. But for most applications, you certainly can communicate to your educators, I want all add-on applications to come through our office. You'll need to select to submit them to HR for verification. But it, much like today, like in Teach Live, if an educator pulls the mentor application and submits it to us, you're not notified. But procedurally, you can tell your educators to give that application to you. Similarly, in this system, most applications have an option to route to HR if your local practice is to encourage your educators to send them to you.
Okay. And similar to one of the prep providers' questions for the mentor specifically, for example, we pay for that as the district, but we could still pay and just send the educator the receipt, right, to upload.
So if you're talking about paying for the application, like for
The application fee.
You would just pay it in the system. You would
But
not send them the receipt.
If the application never comes to us,
Oh.
Yeah, we would say in those situations, if you're going to pay, then you would have to be part of that process. So that way, as Lana demoed earlier, anybody that is part of that process does have the ability to pay. So we would just say if that is your district's choice to pay, then we would just ask that y'all coordinate that with the applicant.
okay.
We'll have clear directions on that. We tried to think of all sorts of scenarios when we were working with developers. And so that will also be one thing we make sure that is addressed with the developers.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, last quick question, just to clarify on those DCFS checks. So right now, my understanding is we're just kind of at a standstill and waiting, right? We're not responsible for checking anything at this point.
That's correct. Those who have access to the DCFS state registry would typically only be your early childhood centers, but the access is going to be set up. My understanding is that it is currently being built. An interface is going to be added to EdLink 360 that will allow authenticated HR users to be able to search for folks' names in that registry.
Okay, great. Thank y'all.
All right. Well, we do actually have to hop to a call with our developers. And so we can take all these questions, any questions that were verbally asked and or placed in the chat. We will try to keep a log of that. And maybe if there were any outstanding questions or comments or concerns, we will most certainly address that with our developers. And so again, thank you so much for spending a little bit of your time this morning, and please enjoy the rest of your day.